Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the channel for a bit of an unscripted, just talking about Smite 2 kind of video. A lot of creators have been releasing these kind of videos very recently about the state of Smite 2. And unlike a few months ago, it's not people releasing videos about how bad Smite 2 is, it's people releasing videos about how good Smite 2 is. And if you've been around my channel for like the last, 6 months or whatever, you know this is nothing new from me. I have been saying the game is actually very good for like the last 3 to 4 months, pretty much. Of course, I still have my criticisms of it. This matchmaking is absolutely awful, but that's partly or mostly honestly due to the very low player base. There is a lack of content in the game, but that's kind of just always going to be the case when it's a brand new game. It's not going to have anywhere near the level of content that a game that's been out for almost 12 years will have. So yeah, there are absolutely still issues with the game, but I just thought I'd make a video talking about my current thoughts on the game. A lot of other creators have done this, as I said. This video is going to be unscripted, which is pretty rare for me. I normally do have at least some bullet points, or it's full unscripted. I like to be able to like collect my thoughts and kind of present my points in a more like structured way, but this is just going to be a completely unscripted video, just talking about how I feel about Smite 2 right now. And yeah, the long and short of it is I think the game is really good right now, and I think it has the potential to absolutely pop off. Whether that's going to be popping off to the levels of like just to the levels of Smite 1, or maybe even getting even bigger than Smite 1, I'm not entirely sure. My guess would probably not be bigger than Smite 1. I did see Christy Dixon on Twitter recently putting out a post saying end of 2025 Smite 2 will surpass Smite 1's peak player count. Probably not, I don't think, just because COVID was a thing. Smite 1 player count peaked during COVID, and I don't think we'll ever reach those kind of levels again, unless Smite 2 reaches a major new audience, which it could, but I'm not that optimistic on the game. I'm not going to say that Smite 2 is like going to reach out and pull people over from League and Dota and all this kind of stuff. It might pull some of them over. It's got a lot of similar mechanics to League, but ultimately I think people are pretty heavily invested in those games, and I don't think it's going to pull over like a massive array of people from other MOBAs and stuff. I think it just has the potential to be as good as Smite 1 in terms of like the long-term stable player count that Smite 1 achieved. Obviously, lately that's come down. It's literally being actively replaced. Obviously, Smite 1's player count's going to be down. It sucks that Smite 2's player count is down also. That's like the one kind of sad part about the game right now. Not too many people are playing it. Not too many people are watching it. Although I will say there does seem to have been a bit of uptick in people watching content about the game. My analytics have gotten a little better. I've seen a lot of other creators getting more views than they were getting, in the depths of despair like 3 to 4 months ago when everyone was dooming on the game. But yeah, I left a comment on Final Case, essentially Final Case version of this video, saying like, in the last 7 months, the game has basically gone from it's okay, I can see the potential, to now it's good and the potential could be insane. Like, I think the game right now is already good. I think it's better than Smite 1. I do agree with Final Case take on that. He put out a video recently saying Smite 2 is already better than Smite 1. I personally think Smite 2 has been better than Smite 1 for a few months, honestly. Just the core way the game feels, the way it plays. Like, playing a match of Smite 2 is already so much more fun than playing a match of Smite 1. And when you go back and play Smite 1, you really kind of notice the difference. And I think once free-to-play launches and people that have been sticking with Smite 1 because they don't want to buy into Smite 2 and aren't following enough to get like Twitch codes or whatever, I do think when those people make the switch over, they'll feel the difference as well, and I do think they'll stick around. I think Smite 1 is, ultimately gonna be surpassed by Smite 2 in terms of the player base. Obviously, at the moment, it's not. But I don't really see much of a reason to stick around Smite 1. Once Smite 2 kind of gets into the swing of things and has more content and has more updates coming for it, there isn't much reason to stay with Smite 1 unless you're one of those people that really cares about your skins. Which, like, I get that, but that debate's pretty much solved at this point. I think it was overblown anyway. Like, there were legitimate complaints about Smite 2's launch. The skin debate was not one of them. And those are probably all the same people that, like, buy the Call of Duty every year and then don't complain that their skins literally get deleted every single year in Call of Duty and everything they've spent on the game gets gone when a new thing releases. Like, it's a brand new game. They can't be expected to port over like how many skins are in Smite? Like 1,500 or something, maybe more than that. I'm not entirely sure on the exact number. They can't be expected to port over like that many skins. It's just insane. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's any reason to really be sticking around playing Smite 1 anymore once this game goes free to play and once people get access to it. Especially like a year or two down the line, there will be absolutely no reason, in my opinion. At the moment, yes, Smite 1 has a lot more content. Smite 1 has a real assault mode. I'm basically going off of the fact that OB1 is launching very soon for this, by the way. Because obviously at this very moment, Smite 2 has no Joust, but it will be having Joust very soon. And I guess Assault, maybe if you're a big Slash fan, you might want to stick around with Smite 1. Because unfortunately, Slash is not being ported, although to me, that's not really super unfortunate. I don't really play the mode. I think it just splits the player base, and it was incredibly unpopular anyway, so they're not going to be porting it. Maybe we'll get a 5th mode at some point that is like similar-ish to Slash, but very different. We'll have to see. But yeah, the amount of work that's been done on the game in like the last 7 months since it basically launched in May last year is just kind of insane. Like, obviously, they've been working on gods a lot recently. We've gone from I don't know how many the game launched with, but I think it was in the teens, was it? There was very few gods that launched, basically, and now by the launch of OB1, we're going to have 50 gods in the game. We're going to have some really cool new ones, Kate, Mordred, and Aladdin. And they've been really cooking with the new Smite 2 gods, in my opinion. They've just been getting better and better. Like, Kate, cool god, has a lot of interesting interactions. Mordred, even cooler in my opinion. I think Mordred is a ton of fun, especially with the aspect. We'll get to aspects in a second. And then Aladdin is like the coolest god they've ever released. You know, the amount of tech with this character that is so unique. It feels like almost you're not really even playing a Smite character, which in a good way. Like, it feels like he's so different and unique. Whereas a lot of Smite's gods, especially in the later years of Smite 1 that they released, like, you know, like Bake Kujira and stuff like that, they were just really not it. So it seems like they've really got back into the swing of things. They're really pushing UE5 to its full potential with these god releases, because I think so far they're 3 for 3 on releasing Smite 2 god releases. And yeah, obviously that's been their main focus over like the last 7 months or so, or maybe over the last like 4 or 5 months. It kind of took them a couple of months to realize that this is what the community really wanted. You know, everyone wants their favorite god in the game. But something interesting that Weekend did say in his version of this video is that like it doesn't necessarily have to be that your main is in the game for you to enjoy the game. Sure, if you only play one character and you only ever want to play that character, I guess, but I don't think that's the majority of people. I think the majority of people play, you know, at least a small variety of characters. And also, with all the changes that some gods are getting, some gods that I didn't even like, Hades is a good example. I really didn't like playing Hades in Smite 1, to be honest. I thought it was pretty boring, but he actually plays really interesting in Smite 2. You know, you've got active items, Helm of Darkness is super broken on him, and then the ult change that he got, where he can use one of his basic abilities while he's ulting, completely changes the way the character plays in late game team fights, makes him so much more fun. We haven't even seen a Hades aspect yet either. You know, maybe Hades will get some kind of like supportive aspect or whatever. Like there'll be a new way to play him, which I guess we may as well get into aspects now. Aspects are insane. Like they've been working mostly on releasing new gods, but you know, as they've kind of approached this 50 number, they've clearly been working in the background on some other systems. Like improvements to active items is another one, but aspects is like the big one that they've revealed, obviously, for OB1. And it completely changes the game. Like it's not as if they're adding 20 new gods with 20 new aspects, but you know, it's almost like they're adding, let's say, 10 new gods. You know, some of them don't really change the way the character plays all too much, like Anhurst, for example. And I do think they could definitely refine the system. Like some of them are big hits, some of them are pretty big misses, in my opinion. But that's kind of always how it's going to be when they implement a new system like this. I don't think they can get it perfect right off the bat. We kind of saw this with active items as well. You know, when they initially released active items, a lot of them were very boring. We didn't have stuff like Cersei's Hexstone, and they reworked a lot of them. They reduced the cooldowns on them. They made them more efficient. And also, it just takes a bit of time to get used to them as well. But there's a lot of really cool active items now. They're still in the process of that. I think there are still some active items that are pretty boring and no real reason to use them. But I think, you know, as they go on, it's just going to get more and more refined. And I think aspects is going to be the same way. You know, at the moment, there's some like Anhur's aspect is really boring. It just gives him more attack speed for hitting the same target instead of his current passive, which is like not really a playstyle shift whatsoever. And those kind of aspects are going to fall into the bad camp of like, they will just be a best way to play Anhur. You know, it's not two different ways to play Anhur. It's two of the same way to play him, and therefore there will be a best one. And as soon as people figure out what that best one is, you know, if the aspect is the best one, no one's going to play base Anhur anymore, unless you know, really want the prot shred, I guess. But like, there will just be a best one. But then if we look at some aspects like Athena, for example, or Ra, or Loki, for example, Thanatos is another good one. Like a lot of these aspects, they really completely change the way a god plays, and like it won't just be that like maybe it will with some of them. There might just be a best way to play them. You know, maybe even in jungle, if you're building full damage, you still go the Thanatos aspect. But in that case, they probably would just need to tweak and rebalance it to where like it isn't best if you're going a damage build and you do want to be going a tank build. But like a lot of these ones, you know, like Athena, for example, you're not really going to want to go the aspect in Athena support, because you're really going to want to be able to shield your allies and go to your allies rather than going to enemies. But if you're playing Athena jungle or Athena mid, she's been historically very viable in those two roles, even solo lane, you might want to go for that aspect, you know, being able to ult over to onto an enemy and just completely nuke them when you have a full damage build. And so it's not just going to be like there's a best way to play Athena. It's either base kit or it's aspect. It's going to be, you know, what role are you playing her in, what playstyle are you going for, how do you like to play Athena. You can choose the aspect or you can choose the base kit. And I think as they refine the system more, we should get more aspects that are like these and less aspects that are like Anhur's, where they will just be a best version and it doesn't really play style shifting very much. But yeah, aspects are going to be absolutely huge. I mean, we're getting 20 at the launch of OB1, but you know, eventually all of these gods will have an aspect, and it gives you so many new ways to play. You know, even Zeus, I've seen a lot of people complaining that they hate Zeus's Smite 2 design and they much prefer his Smite 1 design. Personally, I think his Smite 1 design was toxic as hell, and I wouldn't even like to see it come back. But if they really wanted to, they could just say, okay, Zeus's aspect is now the aspect of the Aegis, and he can throw his Aegis shield again, and he works exactly like Smite 1. And then those people that enjoy Zeus in that way can play the aspect, and those people that enjoy the more like like attack speedy ADC Zeus can play his normal kit. Or they could even make his normal kit back into a Smite 1 and his aspect is the new kit or something like that. Like, there's so much potential with this kind of a system, I think, and it's absolutely huge for the game. And like, just think about all the progress that's been made in like the last 7 months is basically my point here. You know, we've gone from like an absolutely tiny god roster to 50 gods. We've got the aspect system. Active items are so much more fun. The conquest map's getting a rework. We've got Joust. We've got kind of got Assault. Ascension passes are really sick in my opinion. Like, I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough because like cosmetics aren't really the focus right now. We want to get the core game into a really good state. But honestly, I think the core game is in a pretty good state already, and it's only going to get better as they add more and more like ways to play the game with aspects and active items and conquest map reworks and new game modes and all that kind of stuff. You know, we're already getting there, but I think cosmetics restarting with the launch of Open Beta is perfectly fine. I've seen a couple of people saying, oh, why are they already selling skins? The game's still trash. And it's like, I don't think the game's still trash. I think it's a good time to sort of start ramping up skin production a little bit because they do need to make some money. You know, I'm perfectly happy buying skins at the moment in this game. I've already bought quite a few. I put on like 5,000 diamonds. I've already spent a good amount of them on like Ascension passes or just skins that have been ported over already. Or I guess not ported over. Those will be legacy gems only, but like, you know, cross-gen skins or new skins or whatnot. I've already bought a fair few of those, but like the Ascension passes are just really a good showcase of what they can do with like cosmetics in this game, in my opinion. Like, I think they're relatively fairly priced. They're 900 diamonds or they're 450 diamonds, 450 legacy gems, and if you do complete them all the way till the end, you get a refund of 450 diamonds. It's a little bit of a Fortnite style system, except, you know, you don't get the entire currency back, or you get half of the currency back. But if you do have legacy gems, which a lot of people that are moving over from Smite 1 will, I have 233,000. I think I had like 245,000 at one point. I've spent a good amount of them on Ascension passes and skins and stuff. But if you do have legacy gems, you can essentially buy every Ascension pass in the game for purely legacy gems. You just spend 450 legacy gems, and you know, if they're doubled, that's almost like spending 225 regular gems to buy these. And obviously, they're going to take a while to complete, but if you're committed to Smite 2 and you play these gods a lot, you can pretty much just buy any Ascension passes you want for purely legacy gems, which I think is a really good system. And what's available in them, I think it's just such an upgrade over Smite 1's like mastery skin system. Like, people are saying, oh, you have to buy the mastery skins with real money now, which is kind of true in a way. Like the shadow skin, I believe, is the only one. Oh no, wait, it's not the shadow skin that's free, is it? It's the Onyx skin is like the only one that's free. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but like, did anyone really care that much about having mastery skins for free? Personally, I'm not really that bothered. If I can get one of them for free, that's perfectly fine by me. And then as I said, I think the monetization of these passes is relatively fair, and you do get a good amount of content for it, in my opinion. I also really love the whole like loadout thing with the loading frame. Like, I think this is really sick. You know, you've got your title. Trackers are just something that I've been asking for in the game for a long time. It's just really cool to be able to see like, oh, this Nuwa has done like 500,000 damage with their ultimate or whatever. I'm not sure if that's even one for Nuwa, but like the trackers are really cool. And just this whole loading frame customization in general, you know, being able to showcase your Smite 1 mastery, put on a bunch of different badges and stuff like that, put on your trackers, get the frames. This is the only one I have at the moment from the Lord of the Rings event. But as you get your gods to 10 masteries, you get some cool frames that you can put on and stuff like that. And it just adds a lot more personality to being able to customize your loading card. It honestly makes me sad a little bit that Smite 2 is so optimized that you load into the game within about 3 seconds, because you never even get to see your god card, whereas like Smite 1 took like a minute 30 or something to load in. But yeah, I think this whole system is great, and it really gives a lot of promise to what they can do with cosmetics in the future, in my opinion, because Smite 1 was really just like, the only cosmetics you cared about was the skins, you know, random like fucking death marks and fountain skins and all this garbage. You just got them from chests, or you got them free from events, and I don't think anyone really bought those too much. I think the only things outside of skins that really would have sold super well would have been like, other than voice packs, which are free in Smite 2, probably like announcer packs and HUD themes. And HUD themes is something they said they might work on as well. I think HUD themes are a really good idea. I would pay a significant amount of money for a HUD theme because it really does impact your Smite experience a lot. You know, I would pay like 3,000 diamonds for a HUD skin if it was a nice one. But yeah, I think they have a lot of potential with cosmetics and monetization for the game as well. And I think so far they've done it relatively fair. Obviously, there's going to be the people that complain that they lost their skins and that legacy gems aren't fair and whatnot, but I just don't think that's a fair argument at this point anyway. I think the Ascension passes are really cool as well, you know, regardless of the current content that's being added to the game, which I also think is good. They're also doing really well with the cosmetics. I think the Ascension passes are like a really good template for what they could do. You know, these global emotes and stuff, like these are really sick. Like, there's just a lot of stuff they could do in the future, I think. And that's really the core of like how I'm feeling about the game at the moment, to be fair. You know, with the Ascension passes, with the core gameplay and stuff, is that like the foundation is really there now. Like, it wasn't on the launch, it wasn't. The foundation was pretty bad. You know, the game felt clunky, there wasn't really anything in it. But now we've really seen how much the devs can cook when like probably management is off their ass after that horrible fiasco like a few months ago. Management's probably being a little more hands off with the devs now, because they've kind of seen if you let the devs cook, they cook. Like, they've done really well in the last few months, in my opinion. And I think the core foundation is really there now. You know, for example, the Ascension passes, I think, you know, that's a good core foundation for the way to do monetization in this game. I think it's pretty fairly priced. I think you get a lot for what you pay, and the content's really cool, and they could add a lot of that. And then in terms of the core gameplay, you know, are there still issues with it? I don't think the Conquest map is perfect at the moment. Even in OB1, there's probably still a lot more they could do with the Conquest map. But, like, the core gameplay just feels right. It feels better than Smite 1 already, you know. You play a game of Smite 2, and just in general, except for a very few handful of exceptions like Bologna, every character basically just feels better to play in Smite 2. It feels much more fluid. You've got active items. You've got much more interesting build paths. Like, the potential for the game in, like, a couple of years' time, I think is absolutely astronomical. I think this game could be far better than Smite 1 ever could have been, and that's why, you know, we had to make this switch. We had to make these radical changes to the game, move to a new engine, all that kind of stuff. Which, on the new engine stuff, I see far too many people just saying they should have ported Smite 1 to UE5, which is, like, the absolute dumbest take I've ever heard in my life. Like, what kind of value will they ever get from that? You know, it's not just like you can copy-paste Smite 1 into UE5 within a year and just have it be working. If that was the case, they would have done that a long time ago. You know, they would have worked on that in the background if they could have just done it with a small team within a year. The reality is that, you know, building the game from the ground up is probably honestly easier than directly porting Smite 1 over and making it feel exactly the same. So it's just a dumb take that, like, oh, they should just ported Smite 1 to UE5 and kept it going. Like, regardless, the game was kind of on a downtrend, and even an engine upgrade probably wouldn't have solved that, in my opinion. I think these kind of radical changes that they've made are going to be what makes Smite 2, you know, sustainable for the long term. With all of this new stuff, like aspects, split scaling, active items, the way cosmetics are done with, like, the Ascension passes and stuff. Could they done some of this stuff in Smite 1? Absolutely they could. But I think the engine upgrade, you know, the game is running smoother for me anyway. I know a lot of people do have performance issues. Apparently it's a lot better in OB1, and I think they will get a lot better with the optimization of the game once they've stopped, like, just pushing out patches, like, instantly, pretty much. You know, they're probably not doing a whole lot of QA testing and bug testing and optimization testing. They're just trying to push out the content as fast as possible because that's kind of what they need to do. But yeah, the optimization should get a lot better as well. And I think they really needed to do this. I've made videos in the past about how I think, you know, this move and this new game was necessary. And I think people are kind of starting to wake up to the fact now that it really was necessary and that the game has a lot of future potential a year or two down the line. You know, once they've added more content, once they've got all the game modes in, once Assault has its own map, the gameplay already feels really good. They're getting a lot of the core systems in. Obviously, strengthening and active items were there from the start, but they've definitely made improvements to even those systems. You know, active items feel a lot better. There's a lot more interesting ones. Strength and scaling, they've removed the damage component, which a lot of people complained about at the start. Well, like certain abilities like Anubis's Wrap would scale with strength but deal physical damage. It was kind of weird. You know, every god now just deals one damage type but still has that interesting split scaling. Not all gods, obviously. I don't think all gods do need split scaling. I do wish they do a little more with it, personally. I think some gods could use split scaling when they didn't really get it. But regardless, you know, they've definitely made improvements to those systems. They've got systems like aspects in now. They've got game modes. Like, there's been a ton of progress made, basically. Like, you look at what's been done in the last 7 months. When the game went from unplayable trash to, like, actually really good now. I think, you know, a year or two down the line, is going to absolutely pop off. Will it pop off to higher levels than Smite 1? I'm not sure, just because of the pandemic peak, but I think it can absolutely achieve, you know, stable player counts very similar to Smite 1, maybe even a little higher. It kind of depends on, you know, whether the game can really get off its feet and attract a bunch of new people from other areas. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. Just a random unscripted video. Sorry if I went off topic and off, well, I was going to say off script. I don't even have a script. If I just went kind of like on tangents and meandered around throughout this video. I usually script my videos. I'll have at least some bullet points that I want to go over. But I just thought I'd talk about like my state of the game in an unscripted manner. What do you think? Do you think the game's good right now? Do you think it has potential to be good? Let me know down below and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day and peace out, you nerds.